Hello, boxing fans around the world. Thank you for joining me once again here on Talkin Fight for another episode of Boxing News Today. Special shout out to my good friend Rick Corvez. Thanks for listening down Niagara Falls, and let's hear from that boxing gym down there. Big scene down there, quite frankly. The new casino is holding a lot of events for us boxing fans, and I look forward to visiting you real soon. Let's get on with today's news. As promised, it's been an exciting weekend and an exciting weeks plural to come. As we all know, what's funny about fight pundits, guys who criticize and or make comments about fighters. I remember last week reading an article to my fans that Navarette, he was called fat by obviously one of his critics. Anyway, Navarette unleashed over 1,000 punches in his victory, unbelievably, to retain his WBO junior lightweight title. So, some guys just don't know what they're talking about. That's why I just prefer to lean on the professionals who do know what they're talking about and provide you with their words of wisdom. Anyway, great fight by Navarette over Valdez, and had the fans on their feet cheering like mad in Arizona. And I might add, Valdez was a hometown hero, so to speak, being from Arizona, and apologized to his fans afterwards for losing. That's gracious. In other fight news, I wanted to mention Richard Torrez Jr. He was the Olympic silver medalist, as you might recall, and he's continuing to knock people out. He had a what we might call an explosive knockout with a first round stoppage of journeyman Willie Jake Jr. I think it's time for Torrez to raise the bar, though, and hopefully Top Rank will enable him to do that and to develop his heavyweight potential in those ranks. Speaking of heavyweights, yes, I'm pretty sure by now we either saw the fight or we certainly have seen the clip of Anthony Joshua knocking out Robert Helenius. Full credit to Helenius for taking the fight, given a few days' notice, and given the fact that he had only been fighting in Finland a few days prior to taking on Joshua. Most people, critics, pundits alike, are saying Joshua looked a little bit sluggish heading into the sixth round. But boy, when he went into the seventh, things took a turn for the worse for Helenius, and something quite positive happened for Joshua. He found a hole and absolutely knocked Helenius out. It was a great punch. It really was. And a great recap, a great episode in the glamour division, as the heavyweight division is known as. Anyway, I don't want to say too much about the Joshua fight because so much has been said already. But I did want to mention something that my good buddy Jake Tiernan over at BoxingNews24.com had to say. And I'll quote him directly. He said, Anthony Joshua's fight against Robert Helenius was supposed to be a trial run to give him practice for the style that he would use to try and defeat Deontay Wilder next January in Saudi Arabia. Most would agree after watching Joshua mimic that same timid, safety-first style that former heavyweight champion Vladimir Klitschko used, that he's doomed for failure if he tries the same thing against Wilder. Which led me to wonder, quite frankly, is there anyone else on the horizon other than Wilder? I mean, I myself, I've said this before, and I'm quoting Tyson Fury's dad, John Fury. Wilder's kind of soft-skulled. He's been beaten about the head several times, taken punches, been concussed, and one more punch to the head by someone strong and powerful. The problem with Joshua is, I said it before, he's just not mean anymore. He's not mean like Mike Tyson. And as Mike Tyson once said, and as we all know, it's a great plan until you get punched in the face. Anyway, I think, the winner of that Zhai Zhang and Joe Joyce rematch might be an interesting fight for Joshua. And I think, quite frankly, Wilder should take his millions and just retire. That's what I think. That's my opinion. But anyway, there's no shortage of fights for Anthony Joshua to take, but I don't think he's going to enter into the ring against Tyson Fury and possibly re-tackle Alexander Usyk anytime in the near future, which does lead me to believe that the winner, as I said, of Zhao Zhang versus Joe Joyce in their rematch, whoever wins that particular fight, might in fact be a good contender for Anthony Joshua, because I do not want to see him go up against Deontay Wilder. The critics and pundits are all saying the same thing. You know, Anthony Joshua going into a fight against Wilder, he would be the underdog. Joshua, that is. Anyway, let's talk about one more fight that happened recently, something that didn't get too much press, and that's the title picture of Bantamweight post Naya Inoue is complete. Emanuel Rodriguez regained the IBF Bantamweight title with a lopsided decision win over Melvin Lopez over the weekend. The fight was no contest from the start. Rodriguez was too experienced, too skilled, too good for Lopez. The referee could have stopped the bout in the final round after Rodriguez scored his third knockdown of the frame, but went with the count and time ran out. So at least it means the division has a champion for each of its four major belts. This isn't the same as an identity. It might take a minute to establish one of those, maybe longer. Rodriguez, Jason Maloney, or even versus Takuma, anyway, are probably the biggest fights that can be made in the class for the moment, but none of those unification clashes leaps off the page as a particularly must-have fight for fans. Joshua says he wants a unification with Alejandro Santiago. They're all good fighters, but there isn't a lot of star power for the moment. The best case for the class may be, well, the former veteran junior bantamweight stars, Juan Estrada, Roman Gonzalez, to move up and challenge Rodriguez or Maloney or Inoue or Santiago for a belt. Compelling stories. It remains to be seen what happens, but let's see what happens. I just thought to mention him. Anyway, other boxers that were in the ring recently and came out winners. Chordale, the Gift Booker. He's now 20-1 with 9 knockouts. Turned in a masterful performance on Saturday night, dropping Nicolas Hernandez. He's now 27-7-3, twice in round number 7 for yet another explosive knockout of the 2-minute and 41-second mark of the round. And it capped off, quite frankly, an 8-bound CES boxing card. We don't often mention the independents, but here's one. CES boxing card that took place in front of a capacity crowd who showed up at the Mohegan Sun Arena to see the Jimmy Birchfield Invitational. Good for them. It was a 10-bout amateur showcase that took place before the pro card, by the way. Speaking of other independent promoters out there who are doing really well, let's talk about Granite Chin. Friday night's main event was truly the fight of the night on the entertaining Veterans Stadium Showcase Pro-Am card. I was held in Holbrook, Massachusetts, and junior welterweight Mike Badman Ohan Jr., 19-2, 9 knockouts, had his best performance ever against Harry the Hitman Gigliotti, 9-5, 3 knockouts. And he was fighting out of Haverhill, Massachusetts, in an old-fashioned throwdown. So anyway, as I said, the fight was presented by Granite Chin Promotions, streamed live from Veterans Memorial Stadium in Quincy, Massachusetts. And part of the proceeds, by the way, went to Operation Homefront. Good for them. Said Granite Chin President Chris Trietti, as special as this night was for me, it meant even more for the fighters. I couldn't be prouder of all the fighters or more appreciative of the fans for their enthusiasm all night. I want to give my sincere thanks to the city leaders and local businesses that supported this event for allowing Quincy business to do something special in the greatest city on earth. Good for him. Good for him. Let's quickly move along to a fight upcoming we're all looking forward to. Finally, 2023, we're going to see a heavyweight championship. It's unbelievable I'm saying that in August, but here we are. It's finally happening. There'll actually be at least one heavyweight championship fight in 2023, even if it's not the big fight the fans were hoping for. Coming up on August 26th, that's very soon, from Poland, heavyweight champion Alexander Usyk is going to put all of his belts on line, IBF, WBO, WBA, against challenger Daniel Dynamite Dubois. Usyk is the former undisputed world cruiserweight champ, marking him as the only second undisputed cruiserweight champ during the division's relatively brief history, and the only one during the modern four-belt era. After conquering the cruiserweight division, Usyk moved up to heavyweight in 2019, and just 2 years later, in just his third fight as heavyweight, Usyk defeated previously mentioned Anthony Joshua by 12-round unanimous decision to win the unified heavyweight championship. Usyk made one title defense, a rematch against Joshua last August. This time was officially and amazingly by split decision. Usyk clearly won the fight, so the split decision verdict is a bit baffling. Dubois himself is largely unproven. His big claim to fame is beating Trevor Bryan to win the secondary WBA belt. Beyond that, it's difficult to understand how he became a mandatory challenger to begin with. Aside from beating Bryan, he's best known for having had some very good rounds against Joe Joyce. In the end, the durable Joyce inflicted a lot of damage, which led to a stoppage win in round number 10, where Dubois suffered nerve damage and a broken orbital bone. After losing that fight, somehow Dubois got the fight for the WBA interim title in his very next fight, which ultimately led to his chance against Bryan. In his last fight back in December, things almost ended in disaster for Dubois, who was dropped 3 times in the opening round. It was subsequently revealed that Dubois had suffered a tear in his ACL. To his credit, Dubois rallied back to stop Lerena in round number 3. So, who will win the upcoming heavyweight championship showdown between Usyk and his challenger Dubois? Well, your guess is as good as mine, quite frankly, but my money's on Usyk. We've got a rematch coming up. In a rematch of one of the more entertaining fights of the year, heavyweight Dawejko. Woo, is a good one. Dawejko and Colby Madison will once again do battle on Friday night, September 15th at the Live Casino and Hotel in Philadephia. And this card is promoted by King's Promotions, by the way. The first crowd-pleasing event took place back on May 2nd and saw Dawejko pound out a 6-round unanimous decision in the same venue. This time, the fight will be scheduled for 8 rounds. Dawejko, he's out of Philadephia, has a record of 25-10-4 with 14 knockouts. The 30-year-old former world junior amateur champion has been professional for 14 years and has had thrilling victories over Richard Johnson, John Lennox, Derek Rossi, Mark Rideout, Anabong, Imo Hoche, Natu Viznu, holy moly, Demetrius Banks, Kevin Nunez. All good stuff because there's a lot of really good fighters in there. Anyway, Madison out of Baltimore is 11-5-2 with 7 knockouts, and he's 40 years old. Looking to get even, though, with Dawejko, as with this will be his last ring appearance, it seems like. Fair enough, didn't know that. In a battle of undefeated super lightweights, Muhammad Robinson's going up against Najee Johns. Quadir Albright's going up against DeMarcus Layton. Brandon O'Callaghan out of Philadephia taking on Dwayne Williams, also out of Philadelphia. And Ibrahim Robinson out of Baltimore takes on an opponent to be named later. So some good fights to be had down in Philly. Going to be a lot of fun on September 15th, certainly, where we're going to see a good heavyweight battle. Also, one of the hottest young fighters in the sport will headline at home for the first time in his blossoming career as Diego Pacheco takes on Marcelo Caceres for the WBO International and USWBC Super Middleweight title at the YouTube Theater in Los Angeles on November 18th. As you all know, Pacheco, he's 19-0, he's undefeated, 16 knockouts. Was at his scintillating best in his last outing in July, where he blitzed the dangerous Manuel Gallegos inside 4 rounds in Monterrey, Mexico, ending matters with a vicious attack after flooring Gallegos in the 4th with a trademark body shot, and became the first man to stop the Mexican later in the round. That was a second headline turn for the rangy South LA man, having previously pummeled Jack Cullen into submission again in 4 rounds in Liverpool, England in April. And now the 23-year-old earns a shorter trip to the top of the bill, doing so in the shadow of the SoFi Stadium in Inglewood, where he grew up. He said, "I cannot wait to be headlining at home November 18th at the YouTube Theater," said Pacheco, again, as I say, undefeated, 19-0. "I'm looking forward to making a statement and delivering a great performance for all my hometown fans." I'm sure he will. Caceres, by the way, he's 32-5-1. He fights out of Argentina. Finally, I wanted to mention another fight that happened recently. We all saw it. We all wondered what happened. So here's a story for you by Michael Collins on boxing247.com. Sorry. Heavyweight contender Filip Hrgovic put on a rabbit punching clinic last Saturday night, stopping Demsey McKean with some shots to the back of his head to score a 12th round knockout at the O2 Arena in London, England. Many boxing fans took to social media wondering why referee Marcus McDonnell sat back and allowed Hrgovic, now 16-0, 13 knockouts, to nail McKean, now 22-1, with rabbit punches all night without at least a warning him to stop, taking points, and if need be, disqualifying him because it appeared that was the main weapon in his arsenal. The referee McDonnell was missing in action last Saturday night because he should have done something to police the rabbit punching from Hrgovic. Whether the rabbit punches were intentional or not, Hrgovic should have been warned about them and clearly should have lost multiple points in this writer's view. After the fight, Hrgovic had the gall to complain about the holding that McKean did, saying that he should have had points deducted, but failing to mention the illegal rabbit punches he was throwing, which was far, far worse. Getting hit in the back of the head obviously can impact the fight more than simply holding. If you look at the fight, Hrgovic was doing a lot of holding as well, as he looked exhausted by the fourth round and initiated a lot of the clinches. Also, he didn't seem to mind by being held by McKean much of the time because he was gassed and clearly needed the rest breaks to give the energy to attack him when the two were separated. McKean said the fact that he held a lot made the fight ugly. I didn't like that. I think the referee should have docked 1 point or 2 points down. He warned him a few times, but he didn't take any points away. So I think he was holding too much. I think he was controlling the fight and landing bigger shots in every round. And I think I won most of the rounds. In the end, I knocked him out. So it was a decent performance, says Hrgovic. I was surprised he took some good shots and he kept coming, and throwing punches. The holding wasn't nearly as bad as the rabbit punches being thrown by Hrgovic, says this writer. And if it's just the first time that Hrgovic had thrown rabbit shots in one of his fights, that would be one thing. But he'd done it in other fights as well. Based on his performance, the only thing IBF heavyweight champ Alexander Usyk has to worry about in fighting Hrgovic is getting brained with punches to the back of the head. Other than that, this is a mismatch. Hrgovic lacks the talent and the engine to beat a fighter like Usyk or any of the other top guys. And there you go, my boxing fight fans. Thanks for joining me. Appreciate it very much. Remember to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Join me later on at 4 p.m. Eastern Time when I visit Mike Orr on his show, Knuckle Up. Thanks again, Rick.